You're making your photos blurry before you've even pressed the shutter button. And you don't know you're doing it. Now, I want you to picture something, dear listener. You've made a cheese and pickle sandwich. You pick it up, one hand. Casual, it's fine, it's a sandwich. It doesn't need to be stable. It doesn't need to be still. It's going in your mouth, nobody cares. Now, how are you holding your camera? If the answer is, same sort of way really, we need to talk. I should mention here, there is a back catalogue episode on this. Episode 93. How do you hold a camera properly? This is very important. Yes, all that time ago I covered this, and this covers the technical foundations really well, and I'll link to it in the show notes. This episode is different though. This one is about what actually happens in practice, and I'm using a cheese and pickle sandwich as an analogy. The specific, very human, very understandable things beginners do when they first pick up a camera and treat it like it's a sandwich. And why that one habit, that one casual, unthinking grab is quietly ruining photos that had every chance of being brilliant. Hello, welcome to episode 233, blimey, of the Photography Explained podcast. This episode is titled, wait for it, Are you holding your camera like a cheese and pickle sandwich? I know. A very good morning, good afternoon, or indeed good evening to you, wherever you are in the world and whatever time of day you find yourself listening to me. I'm your host Rick. Hi! And in each episode, I try to explain one photographic thing to you in plain English in less than 27 minutes-ish without the irrelevant details. Yes, really. I'm a professionally qualified photographer based in England with a lifetime of photographic experience which I share with you in my splendid podcast. And before I forget, which I often do, you can text me from the podcast feed if you want to get in touch. And if you've got any questions from this episode, so check it out on the podcast feed and I can reply to your text now, which is even better. Right, let's get into this. Holding a camera properly sounds like it should be obvious, doesn't it? You pick it up, you hold it, you press the button. Job done. But there is a gap between picking a camera up and holding it in a way that gives you sharp, well-framed photos. And that gap is responsible for a very large number of slightly blurry photos sitting on cameras right now. I want to give you 6 very specific things that will make an immediate difference. Not settings, not kit, how you hold the camera, how you stand, and how you breathe. All of it's free, all of it's doable today. Yes, dear listener. Right, tip 1, how to hold a camera with your right hand. Open brackets, most beginners get this wrong. Your right hand holds the camera body. That's the side with the shutter button. And there's a grip there, a proper raised section designed for your fingers to wrap around. Use it fully. I don't mean rest your fingers on it, I mean grip it. Fingers curled around the front, thumb sitting behind. Firmly, not strangling it, holding it firmly. You're not wringing out a wet towel, are you? But deliberately, intentionally, like this hand has a job to do and it knows how to do it. Now, beginners can hold the camera loosely. Fingers draped across the front, it feels natural, it looks fine. But every tiny movement of those fingers or that wrist transfers directly into the camera. And so does every nervous twitch, every small shift in weight. That's why you need to grip the camera properly. Let that be a conscious decision every time you pick the camera up. Tip 2, how your left hand can instantly stabilise your camera. This is the tip that makes the biggest immediate difference. Your left hand goes under the camera or under the lens if you've got a longer one attached. Depends on the size of your camera. Palm facing upward, the camera or the lens rests in your left hand. You are a human camera rest. You're supporting the weight from below, not clutching the camera from the sides. The single most common thing beginners do, and it's completely understandable, is hold the camera from both sides with the fingers around the edges. It does not work like holding a camera should. It gives you 2 grip points, both of which wobble independently. Supporting from underneath gives you a stable cradle. The camera sits in your left hand the way a bowl of soup sits in both hands. No sandwich required. Supported level going nowhere. Try it now with whatever you've got near you. Anything, a book, your phone, a camera. Hold it from the sides and then hold it from underneath and feel the difference. That is the difference that can help you to get sharper photos. Tip 3. Use your viewfinder to create a third point of contact. This one takes a minute to get right, but this is absolutely worth it. If your camera has a viewfinder, the small eyepiece at the top of the back of the camera, use it. Get your eye to it. And when I say get your eye to it, I mean bring the camera up so your face and the camera are in contact. Your cheekbone or brow resting against the body, your eye in the viewfinder. That contact is a third point of stability. Camera in right hand, camera resting on left hand, camera against your face. You've built yourself a human tripod, haven't you? For free right now. And if you're using the screen on the back of your camera instead, which I guess some people prefer to do, you need to hold the camera as close to your body as you comfortably can. Arms stretched out in front of you with the camera at arm's length is the least stable way to do this. The closer the camera to the body, the less work your arms are doing. The less work your arms are doing, the less they wobble. Simple. Tip 4. Tuck your elbows in to reduce camera shake. Arms out, elbows pointing sideways, that's a sandwich pose. It's what we do by instinct, and it's not what we want. No, we don't, dear listener. Tuck your elbows in against your body, both of them, snug against your chest as your ribs. Your arms are now braced, your whole upper body becomes a support structure for the camera rather than just your hands doing everything. Now, this sounds minor. It's not minor. The difference between elbows out and elbows in is the difference between two long wobbling levers holding your camera and two short braced supports. That reduction in camera movement is immediate and real. So if you're wondering why your photos are slightly blurry even when everything feels steady, try this first, just this, and see what happens. Tip 5. How your stance and foot position affect camera stability. You're not just holding the camera with your hands, your whole body is involved, and your feet set the foundation for everything above them. Stand with your feet roughly shoulder width apart, a slight lean forward, weight fractionally toward your front foot, and not a lunge, just a gentle lean forward. And if you can, bring one foot slightly in front of the other. Your body becomes dramatically more stable when it has a wider base. I think of it the same way as a tripod, but with two legs obviously. Your body becomes dramatically more stable when it has a wider base. If you think about a tripod, the three legs are close together, not very stable. Three legs far apart, more stable. So do that with your legs. Don't have your feet next to each other. Have your feet below your shoulders equally, and you'll have a nice, firm, stable base. Now, this matters more than people might expect. You could have perfect hand technique and still introduce camera shake by moving slightly, breathing harshly, standing on soft ground, standing on a slope, standing with one foot on a step, one not. Anything that's got you slightly off balance or causing your body to move while you're taking a photo. So sort the foundation first, starting with your feet. Tip 6. The breathing technique that helps you take sharper photos. Your body moves when you breathe. Not much, but enough to show up in your photos. This technique has been used by photographers and archers, for example, since we're on the subject of things that need to be steady, for a very long time, and it works. Take a breath in, let it out, and as you let the breath out at the end of the exhale, in that natural brief pause before your next breath in, press the shutter button. That moment's when your body is at its most still, not tensed with a held breath, not moving with an inhale or mid-exhale, just calm, still and stable. Breathe in, breathe out, in that still pause, shoot. Practice this a few times and it will become automatic, and once it does, you won't even notice you're doing it and your photos will quietly thank you. Quick recap. Your right hand grips the camera deliberately, fully, fingers wrapped around the body grip. Your left hand supports from underneath. Palm up, camera resting on it, not clutched from the sides. You bring the camera up to your face to create a third point of contact with your eye close to the viewfinder and the LCD screen touching probably your cheekbone. You tuck your elbows into your body, let your whole upper body brace and stabilise the camera. You plant your feet shoulder width apart with a slight forward lean and one foot a little in front. You breathe in, you breathe out, and you shoot in that natural still pause at the end of the exhale. 6 things, none of them cost any money, all of them available to you right now. Right, so what if I use a phone to take my photos? If you're shooting on a phone, your grip situation is different, but the principles still apply and there's one phone habit worth watching. Most of us hold a phone with both hands, one on each side, thumbs on the back, screen facing us. Now that's actually a fairly stable position, better than you might think, but there is one habit from phone photography that transfers badly when you move to a camera. It's the arm extension bit, holding your phone out at arm's length to see the screen. If you then use a camera's rear screen the same way, arms out, camera held away from your body, you've brought that instability with you. So whatever you're using, phone or camera, the core idea is the same. Get it close to your body, but I get you need to look at the screen. Use both hands properly, create as many points of contact as you can, elbows in, feet planted. But you can't put it to your face and get that third point of contact, can you? And that is one of the fundamental differences between a camera and a phone. And if you're thinking about making the move from a phone to a camera to take your photos, the grip adjustments is one of the first things you'll notice. It's going to feel strange at first, but give it a few goes and it will become completely natural. And you'll have that lovely viewfinder to help you take photos which you haven't got with a phone. And yes, if we think about it, a phone is much more like a cheese and pickle sandwich, isn't it, than a camera. You don't get a cheese and pickle sandwich with a grip, do you? Well, if you do, let me know. Text me from the feed. Okay, what do I do? Well, I'll be honest, after 40 odd years of this, I don't consciously run through a grip checklist every time I pick up my camera. The habits are automatic now, well, you'd hope so, wouldn't you? But they were built deliberately many years ago and I still use all of them. I use a viewfinder whenever I can to take photos. I'm a bit old school about this. There's something about putting your eye to the viewfinder, excluding the entire world, helping you with your composition and also helping you with your stability, because you can use your face, you can put your camera against your face and you got that third point of contact, making a little bit more difference. The viewfinder is there for a reason. It helps you take better photos. Look through the viewfinder and you're excluding everything else. I think I just ad-libbed this, didn't I? Because all you see is what's in the photo you're about to take. And this genuinely helps you and I take better composed photos, dear listener. And I'll repeat myself here, and I don't mind doing it. This is one of the standout reasons why it is better to take photos with a camera than it is with a phone. A phone doesn't have a viewfinder. And using the viewfinder helps you to take sharper photos. I've already covered that, so I won't repeat myself here. And for my architectural and real estate work, my camera's on a tripod, so a lot of this changes. But I still use the viewfinder even with my camera on a tripod, and I use the self-timer to minimise camera movement. But for travel and landscape photography, for anything handheld, all 6 of these tips are what I do every time I take a photo. Camera held firmly by the grip with my right hand. Camera and lens sat on my left hand, which cradles the lens and takes the weight. Feet apart, one foot slightly in front of the other. Take a deep breath, breathe out, pause, take the photo. That's what I do every time. Because what I'm trying to do with every photo I take is to get the sharpest, best composed photo that I can, and that's every time. Okay, here's something for you to do, dear listener. Pick up your camera whenever you can. You don't have to do it now, but it would be good if you could. Not to take photos, just to hold it, yes really. Get your right hand wrapped around the grip, get your left hand underneath it, palm up, camera resting in it. Tuck your elbows, camera to face, feet shoulder width apart. Hold that position for a minute, see how it feels. That's what you're going for every time. And then do the same with your arms out in front of you, camera as far away from your face as you can get it. Hold that for a minute and see how that feels, and you'll get the point. And when you've done all this, let me know how you got on. Did you feel the difference? Did it feel strange at first, and then did what I'm saying click? Text me from the podcast feed, be lovely to hear from you. And there's a link in the show notes for how you can get in touch. How utterly splendid. Related episodes, well, there's 2 back catalogue episodes worth your time here. Episode 93, how do you hold a camera properly? This is very important. Touched on that before. And also episode 89, camera shake. What is it? How do I stop it happening? Which is directly related to what I've been talking about today. And if you go to rickmcavoyphotography.com, check out the blog post for this episode, you'll find links to both of those. Next episode, well, we're going somewhere that follows on from this perfectly. You've sorted your grip, you're holding the camera properly, your stance is solid, you press the shutter button, and then, oh no, another blurry photo. What's going on? We're going to dig into every single reason photos come out blurry, not just camera shake, all of them. And I'll give you simple fixes for each one. And the episode's called, oh no, another blurry photo. Here's how to stop it right now. And that one's out on Friday the 5th of June, so don't miss that. And if you're wondering why I'm spending so much time talking about blurry photos, this is one of the number 1 problems facing beginner photographers, blurry photos, and I'm happy to spend some good time on this because it's really important and it will really help beginner photographers who are struggling with this. So, okay, that's that. Right, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Photography Explained podcast. I do hope you've enjoyed it and found it useful. If you have any questions or suggestions for a future episode, please let me know. And if you did love this episode, why not subscribe so you get every new episode straight to your listening device of choice? And if you could help me out by telling one person about my splendid podcast, that would be greatly appreciated. And for everything else, courses, resources, my weekly email and lots of other good stuff, check out my website, rickmcavoyphotography.com. And you can find me on YouTube, just put Rick McAvoy into search, and there I am. And for the 75th time, you can text me from the podcast feed. This episode, not surprisingly, was brought to you by a cheese and pickle sandwich, consumed before settling into my homemade, acoustically cushioned recording emporium. I've been Rick McAvoy. Thanks again very much for listening to my small but perfectly formed podcast, it says here, and for giving me 27-ish minutes of your valuable time. Now, I reckon this episode's going to be about 18 minutes long after I've edited out the mistakes and the other bad stuff, because I did make a particularly poor job of recording this. Not that you'll be subjected to that listening. So thanks for listening. Take care. Stay safe. Cheers from me, Rick.